Good evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to an update on catastrophic, likely to be catastrophic, and very dangerous, still Category 5 Hurricane Milton. It's back actually to up to Category 5 intensity this afternoon and now evening. After it did weaken to a Category 4 hurricane this morning due to an eye wall replacement cycle. But that has now changed, and it is now back to strengthening. Recon is in the storm. They're finding that Milton is strengthening, and it is back into the lower 900s, on the verge of once again going back down below 900 millibars. Milton is just continuously proving to be a very powerful and intense storm. And we could just take a look at the latest information from the National Hurricane Center as of 4:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. This was an updated statement because of recon data that went in, and they found Milton is back down into the low 900s. It actually got as high as 930 millibars earlier in the day because it was undergoing an eye wall replacement cycle. Now it's down to 905 millibars. It is now a Category 5 again, winds of 165 miles an hour. And obviously, you could tell that it's an updated statement because they said that aircraft measures very low pressure in the eye of Milton. And as of the latest data from the reconnaissance, they're still finding that Milton is slightly strengthening in its pressure. 904 millibars was the latest reading measured by aircraft, and I think this was actually with still winds of, I think, 17 knots at the flight level, meaning that if this were to actually translate, you would correlate this roughly to 902 millibars. So 3 millibars stronger, basically what the recon found, compared to the National Hurricane Center 905. So this is still strengthening, and this still has some time left to strengthen further. This is going to make landfall in Florida right around tomorrow night to early Thursday morning. So this roughly has some time to strengthen still, although once it gets to around tomorrow afternoon, conditions will become a little bit more unfavorable. There will be stronger shear as this approaches landfall, and we will probably and hopefully see weakening of the storm. Regardless, though, it's going to be a major hurricane into Florida. Hurricane warnings are in effect now for both coasts, the west and the east coast, but especially interests along the west coast, including Tampa. Really need to watch this storm. Let's go to the impacts with storm surges. Is probably going to be the biggest thing, and I believe these values are going to increase because this storm is an absolute beast, and it just continues to re-strengthen in any moment it gets, and this has so much energy associated with it, especially because this is dipping into the low 900s, and yesterday it was in the 890s. And literally the second strongest storm in the Gulf of Mexico on record. So this has so much energy. I don't think the storm surge is going to be only 10 to 15 feet. I think it might even be above 15 feet in certain areas, obviously depending on how the coast kind of shapes up with the shape of the coasts. But regardless, it includes Tampa Bay. If you're in Tampa right now, you should be evacuating. You still have time to leave. But I do want to offer a little bit of a somewhat of hope if you're in the Tampa Bay metro area, because I know there's a lot of focus, especially on Tampa right now, because of how much of a big population center it is. And I'll show you here. This is the 12Z model track guidance for Milton, and you can see most of the guidance took this right over, if not maybe just ever so slightly south of the Tampa Bay area, and the Tampa metro, and then compare that to the 18Z. You can definitely see, and it's a little bit hard because this is kind of zoomed out, but notice from the 12 to the 18Z, there was a noticeable shift south in the track. So that means a shift south, slightly in terms of the worst storm surge. Keep in mind, especially with the angle of the storm that's going to be coming in, the worst impacts will be just to the south of where the eye makes landfall. So the storm surge is going to be the worst in the right front quadrant. So that'll be right just south of where the eye makes landfall. So let's say the eye makes landfall just north of Tampa. That is actually if the storm makes landfall just north of Tampa, that would actually be the worst case scenario for storm surge because they would be getting the right front quadrant, which in this case would be on the southeast side. So if this makes landfall just north of Tampa, just south of Tampa, I should say, that could potentially leave Tampa out of the worst in terms of storm surge. They're probably still going to get hurricane, maybe even major hurricane force winds. But that is a silver lining for some, but it's a worst case scenario for others, especially just south of Tampa when we start getting to Sarasota, Charlotte Harbor, all of the areas that were impacted very badly by Hurricane Ian just 2 years ago. Those are going to put those areas in the direct line of fire, and that is definitely not good news at all. And just really quickly scrolling on Twitter to see latest information on Milton, you could see in one pass dropped 908 to 904 millibars. And as I said, drops down supports as low as 902. So lots of strengthening still occurring. You could see everybody talking about it, strengthening happening. And I think there's also some people mentioning the fact that we could hear, this is Alex Warham, and I actually found this interesting. Wouldn't be surprised if Milton is starting another eye wall replacement cycle soon, because the eye has contracted to 10 nautical miles, which is quite small, and that's kind of why the storm is also really able to intensify a lot, because it's very small, it has a very small eye, and small storms are able to intensify very quickly. And so he mentions that, but he does not say there's no sign of the wind field in expanding yet with the eye wall replacement cycle. So that means the storm is still probably strengthening. And, since we're very close to it becoming below 900 millibars again, this is at 902 basically, if you believe the latest recon data, that means if this goes below 900 millibars again, that's just going to be insane. But I don't think it makes a difference at this point, given how insane Milton has been so far. Certainly a storm that will be remembered in the history books for a long time to come. It's very rare that you get a storm like Milton that is able to intensify and become a very high end and very deep in terms of pressure Category 5 hurricane in the Gulf twice. I think I saw a tweet earlier today that Milton is only among 2 storms that have re-intensified into Category 5 status after weakening while in the Gulf. The only 2 storms I think are Allen and Camille, which were both also very intense storms. And Milton now joins that list of top tier or top category Atlantic storms now. And certainly that's going to mean probably lots of devastation for Florida. And once again, my main message to those watching in Florida tonight, if you're going to take away anything from what I say, is get the hell out. Prepare while you still can. You still have time, but the time is running out, and we will definitely be keeping on top of Milton for the rest of the night. I'm going to try to post a video tomorrow. Maybe I'll even do a live stream tomorrow evening going over what's the situation with Milton. But as of right now, still a very, very, very powerful Category 5. And it's probably going to remain that way over the next several hours. And even as this weekend's down below Category 5 status, this will still probably very much be a powerful major hurricane once it heads into Florida. With that being said, though, going to keep on top of the tropics throughout the night. Once again, as I said yesterday, if you want up-to-the-minute information, whenever I can put it out, I usually go to Twitter for that. It's much easier to post on Twitter constantly than it is to post many YouTube videos, so definitely follow me on Twitter. In fact, I'll show you my profile right now, Danilo Evangelista. Definitely follow me on Twitter if you can. Stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to all of you, and my best wishes to those, especially in Florida, to those who are in the direct line of fire from Milton. We'll talk again very soon.